For most of my life, I believed I was fundamentally broken. I felt like I was living the same bad day on a loop, stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage, pushing away good people and good opportunities without knowing why. It was like some invisible force was running my life, and I was just a passenger, watching myself make the same mistakes over and over. Then I came across something called shadow work, a practice of exploring the most hidden parts of your own mind. I was skeptical, a little scared, but mostly I was desperate for a change. So I decided to commit to it for 30 days. I had no idea that intentionally facing my own darkness would lead to the most profound and shocking transformation of my life. Before I tell you what happened during those 30 days, you need to understand where I was coming from. On the surface, things looked fine. I had a job, friends. I was a functioning adult. But on the inside, I was living in a state of quiet chaos. My entire life felt defined by a series of confusing and destructive patterns. The biggest one, a deep, suffocating habit of people-pleasing that left me feeling constantly drained and resentful. I'd say yes to things I had no energy for, take on emotional burdens that weren't mine, and bend myself into whatever shape I thought would make other people comfortable. All the while, my own needs were completely ignored. It was like I was a supporting character in everyone else's movie. Then there was the self-sabotage, which was my specialty. Every time I got close to a meaningful goal, a promotion, a creative project I loved, this overwhelming sense of dread would wash over me. It was a physical feeling, a voice whispering, "You're not good enough for this. You're going to fail. It's better to just quit now before you embarrass yourself." And I would always listen. I'd miss deadlines, procrastinate until the opportunity vanished, or find some other way to implode, just to prove that voice right. The frustration of knowing I was the source of my own problems was agonizing. This bled into my relationships too. I would attract people who needed fixing, and I'd pour all my energy into them while ignoring massive red flags. Or if someone healthy and stable came along, I'd find a way to push them away. I was convinced that if they saw the real me, this broken, messy person I was hiding, they would leave anyway. It was a preemptive strike against what I saw as inevitable heartbreak. Living like this is exhausting. It's a constant state of internal war, where one part of you wants to grow and another, hidden part, keeps pulling the emergency brake. I felt like I was being directed by a puppeteer I couldn't see, following a script I never wrote. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." My life felt like fate, a repeating destiny of near misses and self-inflicted wounds. I was ready to finally meet the person pulling the strings.
If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support.
So, what is this mysterious shadow work I was about to get into? The practice is rooted in the work of 20th century psychologist Carl Jung and his concept of the shadow. Put simply, shadow work is the process of exploring your unconscious mind to uncover the parts of yourself that you have repressed, rejected, or disowned. Here's a simple way to picture it. Throughout our lives, especially in childhood, we learn that certain parts of us are good and acceptable, while other parts are bad or unacceptable. Jung called the good part our persona. The persona is the social mask we wear for the world. It's the polite, capable, and agreeable version of ourselves that we present at work, in social situations, and even to our families. It's designed to help us fit in and be accepted. But what happens to all the parts that don't fit that perfect mask? The anger, the jealousy, the fear, the inappropriate desires. We don't just get rid of them, we push them down deep into the basement of our unconscious mind. This collection of disowned parts is what Jung called the shadow. It's the dark side of our personality, not because it's inherently evil, but because it lives in the dark, outside the light of our conscious awareness. Jung saw it as a kind of cognitive blind spot. It's everything we are, but have no wish to be. Now here's the crucial part. The shadow isn't just a container for negative traits. It can also hold positive qualities that we disowned for some reason. Maybe you were a loud, expressive child who was told to be quiet, so you repressed your natural confidence. That confidence is now in your shadow. Maybe you had big creative dreams but were told to be more practical, so you pushed down your artistic instincts. Those instincts are in your shadow too. It holds immense energy and vitality. The problem is, when we ignore the shadow, it doesn't just go away. It finds ways to control us from behind the scenes. It shows up as self-sabotage, intense emotional triggers, or those moments when we get irrationally angry at someone for a trait we secretly possess. This is called projection. When we haven't owned a part of ourselves, we project it onto others, judging them harshly for the very thing we refuse to see in ourselves. So I made a plan. For 30 days, I would use journaling as my main tool to finally turn on the lights in my own basement and see what was living down there. I was ready to stop calling it fate and start calling it what it was, my own unexamined self. The first few days were awkward. My journal entries felt superficial, like I was still performing for an invisible audience. It's surprisingly hard to be honest, even with yourself. But I stuck with it, and slowly, the facade started to crack. The journey wasn't a neat, straight line. It was messy, emotional, and often deeply uncomfortable. Rather than a daily log, I want to share the 3 major breakthroughs that completely shifted how I see myself. Breakthrough 1. Unmasking the people pleaser. This started with a familiar feeling: resentment. A friend asked for a huge favor that would completely upend my weekend. I felt my stomach clench and my mind scream, no. But the words, of course, came out of my mouth instead. The rest of the day, I was stewing in a quiet rage, angry at them for asking, but furious with myself for saying yes. That night, I sat with my journal and a prompt I'd found. What am I afraid will happen if I say no? What past experience taught me that my needs are less important than others? As I started writing, it was like opening a floodgate. I wasn't just writing, I was excavating. I wrote about the fear of being seen as selfish, the terror of disappointing someone, and the deep-seated belief that my worth was tied to how useful I was to others. And then, a memory surfaced, vivid and long forgotten. I was about 7 years old and had gotten sick, which inconvenienced a family event. I remembered the palpable disappointment from an adult I loved and the overwhelming shame, as if my very needs were a burden. In that moment, I connected the dots. My people-pleasing wasn't just a bad habit. It was a trauma response. It was the 7-year-old inside me, still trying to earn love by being as small and accommodating as possible, desperately trying to avoid being a burden ever again. Seeing that connection didn't magically fix it, but it changed everything. The pattern was no longer some mysterious character flaw. It was a protection mechanism that had outlived its usefulness. For the first time, I felt compassion for it, instead of contempt. Breakthrough 2. Facing the imposter. About 2 weeks in, an amazing opportunity landed on my desk at work. A project I'd been dreaming of. My boss's email came through, and my first feeling wasn't excitement. It was pure, cold dread. The voice was back, louder than ever. You're a fraud. You're going to be exposed. They made a mistake. My immediate physical impulse was to find a way out of it. That night's journal prompt was blunt. What part of me feels unworthy of success? What negative beliefs do I hold about my capabilities? Writing this out was painful. I listed all the self-critical thoughts. I'm not smart enough. I only got this through luck. Someone else deserves it more. It was a flood of self-doubt. Then I pushed deeper, asking why. I traced the feeling of being an imposter back to high school, to a specific class where I struggled and was subtly shamed for it, made to feel like I just didn't get it. The breakthrough came when I realized what the imposter syndrome was doing for me. It was protecting me from the perceived humiliation of failure. If I never truly embraced an opportunity, if I always kept one foot out the door, then if I failed, I could just say, well, I wasn't really trying anyway. It was a shield. It was my mind's misguided attempt to protect me from the shame I felt as a teenager. By giving this part of my shadow a name, the imposter, and understanding its origin, it lost some of its power. It wasn't an objective truth about my incompetence. It was a scared kid trying not to get hurt again. I could feel the fear, acknowledge it, and then choose not to let it drive. Breakthrough 3. The mirror of judgment. The final and maybe most profound breakthrough came from looking outward. There was a person in my social circle who I found incredibly irritating. They were bold, seemingly overconfident, and always the center of attention. Every time they spoke, I felt a wave of internal judgment. So arrogant, I'd think. So loud. Who do they think they are? My journaling practice had taught me that strong reactions to others are often a mirror. So I used this prompt. What specific trait in this person is triggering me? Where in my own life do I wish I could express that trait more freely? This was the one that blew my world open. I had to be brutally honest. The trait that annoyed me was their unapologetic self-confidence, their ability to take up space, their freedom to be too much. And the devastating realization was that I wasn't angry at them. I was envious. I was angry at the part of myself that I had silenced for decades. This is the core of Jungian projection. I had disowned my own desire to be seen and to be bold because I had labeled those traits arrogant and unlikable. I had pushed my own confidence into my shadow. Seeing it in someone else was an unbearable reminder of what I had repressed in myself. This wasn't about admitting I was a bad person. It was about reclaiming a piece of my own power that I'd been too afraid to own. It was a complete game changer. So what changed after 30 days? It wasn't like a switch flipped and I was suddenly a new person. But the core of my internal world had fundamentally shifted. The transformation wasn't about getting rid of the bad parts of me, but about integration, about becoming a whole person instead of a fragmented one. The constant low-level anxiety that used to be the background music of my life, it quieted down. That feeling of being stuck was replaced with a sense of agency. Instead of being a passenger, I finally felt like I was in the driver's seat. The people-pleasing habit hasn't vanished, but its grip on me is broken. I can now feel the impulse to say yes when I mean no, and I can pause. I recognize it as that old, scared part of me trying to secure love. I can thank it for trying to protect me, and then I can kindly but firmly set a boundary. Saying no is no longer a catastrophe, it's just a sentence. And it has brought so much more honesty and energy into my life. My relationship with success has transformed too. I took the project at work. The fear and the imposter syndrome still show up, but now I see them as old friends with terrible advice. I can listen to their concerns without obeying their commands. This is what authentic confidence feels like. It's not the absence of fear, but the ability to act alongside it. And maybe most beautifully, my relationships with others have deepened. By projecting less, I see people more clearly, with more compassion and less judgment. When I feel that flash of irritation, I've trained myself to look inward and ask, what is this showing me about myself? More often than not, it leads me back to a place of greater self-awareness. It's unlocked a level of empathy I didn't know I was capable of. Life isn't about avoiding triggers anymore. It's about using them as a compass pointing toward the next part of myself that needs to be brought into the light. If any of this sounds familiar, I want you to know that you can start this journey right now. You don't need anything special. All you truly need is a notebook, a pen, and a willingness to be radically honest with yourself. It can be challenging, so it's vital to be gentle and compassionate with yourself along the way. A great place to start is simply by paying attention to your emotional triggers. The next time you have a strong, out-of-proportion emotional reaction, intense anger, shame, envy, get curious. Don't judge it. Just observe it. Later, when you're calm, you can sit with a journal and ask yourself a few questions. Here are 3 beginner-friendly prompts to get you started. What quality in another person, positive or negative, sparks a strong reaction in me? Think about a mistake you can't seem to forgive yourself for. What does that mistake say about you, and what fear is attached to it? What part of myself do I try to hide from others? What am I afraid would happen if they saw it? The key is to write without a filter. Let whatever comes up, come up. Follow the trail of emotion. It will lead you directly to the source. And now I want to open this conversation up to you. My journey started because I realized I wasn't alone in feeling this way, and I want you to know you aren't either. If this story resonated, please share one pattern you've noticed in your own life in the comments below. It could be anything: procrastination, jealousy, self-criticism. You'd be surprised how many of us are dealing with the same invisible forces. Sharing it is the first step to bringing it into the light. And of course, if you're on a journey of personal growth, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we have so much more to explore together. Looking back, this 30-day experiment taught me one profound lesson. The goal of shadow work isn't to get rid of your darkness. You can't. The shadow is a living part of you, and it wants to be integrated, not destroyed. The goal is to turn around, walk into that basement, and shake hands with whatever you find there. It's not about becoming a perfect person. It's about becoming a whole person. Facing the parts of yourself that you've deemed shameful or unacceptable is some of the most courageous work you can ever do. But the reward is a freedom you can't even imagine. It's the freedom of no longer being controlled by what you don't know about yourself. It's the freedom of living an authentic, integrated life. And it's the only way to stop letting your unconscious direct your life and calling it fate.